Want to watch football without the restrictions of blackouts or cable? Check out expressvpn.com to help you get access to all the live games. Sign up today using the link in the description to get 3 free months.
Yo to Bolt fam, it's the director. Chargers fans, we finally got some news, baby. We got something to talk about. I don't know about you dudes. This offseason is going to be very long already, right? The Jim Harbaugh's got me all the way up to 11. Dear God, is it kickoff yet? I'm ready for some Chargers football. Till then, we've got some stuff to talk about. Cory Lindsley made a move, a pretty cool, this is chill move by Cory Lindsley to help out the Chargers in their cap situation, especially revolving around his likely retirement coming up. Nice, solid move there to help free up the Chargers. What, it's going to be $11.5 million. Very, very, very nice. It's going to help the Chargers out tremendously in a season that they were $45 million over the cap. This is the first step towards that. Give Cory Lindsley some love in the comments section. One of the best centers to ever play the game. Had to step away from football due to a heart-related issue, which of course is devastating for the team as he was one of the best on that offense. The other big thing I kind of want to talk about in regards of the cap, in which the Chargers desperately needed a lot of help. Right now it's expected that the cap is going to be in around the range of $250 million. That's pretty significant, dudes. I think the last I checked, it was in and around like 238, 240 was the estimate. 250 is actually quite a nice jump for the Chargers. That's going to open up some possibilities of what we can do to not just get under the cap, but make some juicy moves along the way. So as we're getting ready to get into the new league year, which is coming around the corner, I wanted to help carry this video along the lines of keep, trade, cut. We do a keep, trade, cut video every single season. I think now's a good time as we're starting to get, our way around, catch our footing on what the money situation could be looking like for the Chargers, because we're going to need some new pieces. Jim Harbaugh is going to need some guys that fit his mold, and the Chargers are well along their way to making that happen. So before we do kick off, guys, shout out to the sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. Use code DIRECTOR to match your first deposit up to $100. Get in on the action. Newcomers enjoy this Steve Curry special right there, and it'll be a good time, man. Before we do kick off, hit us up with a like and sub if you do enjoy this Chargers content. Getting close to 50,000 subs, guys. Thank you so much. My mama always said it costs you nothing to do something nice for somebody, to pay a compliment. Definitely, the love's being felt out here, guys. I really appreciate that. The small amount of time you guys take to hit the like, sub, bell notification helps me out a lot. Let's jump right into it. Lights, camera, action. Keep, trade, cut. This episode always makes me a little nervous every single season because there's going to be guys, right? There's going to be guys I don't want to lose. These are my buddies, right? Like, this is the Chargers, for Pete's sake. These are the guys that I revolve a lot of my existence around, that form the team and the community that we're all built on. It's a lot. It's a lot to ask of anybody to say, hey, who do you want to cut loose, right? Who do you want out, of the Chargers and on to better things with another team or whatever? It's a lot to ask. But at the same time, part of the game, part of business, and ultimately it's a strategy. I think that's something that we have to put at the forefront of our minds when seeing, how guys like Joe Ortiz and Jim Harbaugh have to, sort of wrap their minds around this whole concept. We're trying to build a team here. We're trying to build a winning culture. We're trying to build the most talented, unit on the field come game day. A lot of things that come into play here. But I think one of the biggest things you got to maneuver around when it comes to the rules of the game of the offseason is the cap, right? Which, of course, has already taken some steps in the right direction. The Chargers, who were $45 million over the cap, now find themselves at $35 million, which is pretty fantastic. Golf clap for Cory Lindsley and those guys. It's already been applied to over the cap, which you'll see down here. Now he's only listed at a cap of $3.8 million this season. Fantastic. It'll be definitely a big move. So what we're going to do, we're going to reference this chart a lot. We're going to go through our keep, trade, cut candidates for the 2024 season, kind of see what these players do in terms of, their effect on the upcoming year. But for now, let's go ahead and just kind of, put in with a guy that we've already talked about. Cory Lindsley, he did the contract restructuring. It's already been taken account for in this league season. I think we can expect a cut post June 1st, not trade, but cut post June 1st for Cory Lindsley, which will save, another $1.5 million right there. thus ending the legacy with Cory Lindsley and the NFL. Of course, the Chargers, we wish him nothing but the best, happy, successful future, healthy future with his family. But that is one thing to take into account for the Chargers 2024 season. All right, so there's our honorable mention of Cory Lindsley, our first move here. Now comes some of the more challenging names. As we're going through this, you guys in the comment section below, let me know your keep, trade, cut, re-sign, or walk, I guess, is going to be kind of part of this as well. Let me know what you think of these players and any others that you may want to mention in the comment section below too is very much so welcome. Let's go ahead and start here with Michael Davis. Michael Davis, who has had kind of a checkered past with the Chargers, up and down, I should say, roller coaster. So one year he's fantastic, one of the most underrated corners in the league, and the next he's a kind of a liability, and I don't know if it's because the defensive system has been up and down. Brandon Staley's been nothing but inconsistent. I don't know what the situation is there, but Michael Davis, man, who's on a contract here, by the way, I'll mention it at the top of every player from now on. I don't know if it's something that the Chargers want to start building off of right now. I think consistency is going to be a very important piece of the Jim Harbaugh way, a winning culture's way, and Michael Davis, even though he has provided a lot of great, value for the team in some seasons, the inconsistencies do worry me here. So Michael Davis, we're going to say this is a walk candidate for me. With an expired contract, I just don't know if the Chargers want to start that rebuild with a little bit of inconsistency there. So Vato on his way perhaps to another team. All right. Next up, this is actually a pretty important aspect of the 2024 season in terms of team building, okay? Jalen Guyton, and there's a big reason I wanted to include him on here. I think every season, and sometimes maybe not the best, opinion of it, we think, Jalen Guyton, if we let go of Tyron Johnson, maybe Jalen Guyton is next. But the Chargers have kept Guyton around for the past couple of seasons now because we plumb need that speed. We need that speed, and I don't know why we were not willing to get it anywhere else during, free agency or the NFL draft. Jalen Guyton's kind of been the speed guy on the team. I think maybe it's time to introduce a little bit of young blood in here, man. Of course, Darius Davis is a really good start. That special team, expert out there. But I think speed in terms of receiver, an offensive weapon, is something the Chargers have to flex on this year. And Jalen Guyton maybe has seen speedier days. I mean, who am I to talk, right? Director goes out. I lost like 75 pounds last year. Quit vaping. Gained a lot back. Up and down. Who am I to judge? I'm not saying, but this is the professional athlete here. And I think it is time for the Chargers to find that young, fast talent to build on in the NFL draft this season. I really do. There's a lot of fresh, young talent coming in that possess the speed this year. I'm talking sub 4.3 guys galore in terms of wide receiver talent for this upcoming draft. And I want to see the Chargers take a shot. It doesn't have to be, of course, Malik Neighbors certainly on the table for the Chargers at number 5, but even deeper in the draft, I expect the Chargers to have 2, maybe extra picks. Let's throw one of them at a speedy wide receiver. Right, maybe a bit of a project, but the guy has the one thing he can't teach. That's why Jalen Guyton's on this list. Of course, an expired contract. We're going to say he's a walk candidate for me. Let's bring in some young guys via the draft. Hopefully, Jalen finds another opportunity. He's been awesome, especially. I will credit him and Tyron Johnson as two of the guys that helped me really, really instantly fall in love with Justin Herbert. That speed paired up with his cannon of an arm was certainly fun to witness in his rookie year. All right. Moving on. Alohi Gilman, expiring contract 2024. The Chargers certainly had a big question mark top of the season. What are we doing at safety? What are we doing at safety? Well, it kind of figured itself out, didn't it? Alohi Gilman comes in here and has a spectacular season in lieu of a freshly retired Nasir Adderley. You guys remember that dude? Nasir Adderley kind of up and down. Well, Alohi steps in. I say he had a fantastic season, man. He's what, a top shelf Jamal Adams safety of the league, but holy cow. Tell me something he didn't do good. At least good, right? He wasn't elite, but he was great. And one thing that he did very, very well that I think is a defining trait of him is that this dude is physical. You want a hard-hitting safety? Look no further than Alohi Gilman, man. Dude will bring the thump, and I think it's something that Jim Harbaugh and Jesse Minter in particular are really going to love about this dude. And I'm talking about him like we've already re-signed him. He is certainly a re-signing candidate for me. I do want to see Alohi Gilman get another shot in this system because I do think he's going to fit very, very well. Now, a couple of days ago, I was thinking to myself, Alohi, how much is he going to cost? I kind of, compared him to other safeties, maybe in the middle or lower middle ranges of contracts, and I came in and around like $6-8 million. Some people are saying he could be signed for sub $5 million, under $5 million per season. If that really is the case, that would be pretty. And I'm seeing it as low as like $3.5 million a season, guys. Like, there's just no way. Is there? I don't know. So let's go back over here to our handy dandy chart real quick and throw him in there to see what the money situation would look like. Because he's my first. Let's go ahead and re-sign him. Okay, let's go ahead and extend him. Let's give him 2 seasons at. Let's go ahead. I mean, they're saying 3, but let's go ahead and give him $5 million a season, right? Let's give him 5, and just see how we feel about that. Of course, we're still trying to get under the cap. That does push us back up just to about 40. But I think Alohi is someone that if you've got the money, you want to make it work because he's been fantastic for the team. And I want to see him back in this specific defense that Jesse mentioned. That hard-hitting, physical. He can go up there and make plays as well. That's the kind of guy I want to see on this team. I think he's earned a contract extension with the Chargers. Maybe one of the few guys this season that has done so. So Alohi Gilman, welcome back to the squad, all right? Next up, Mike Williams. This would be a cut candidate. He is under contract with the Chargers one more season. Of course, a massive, massive cap hit is what we talk about mostly when we reference a Mike Williams, who had $32 million. It's pretty up there. It's pretty one of the biggest contracts you're going to find for wide receiver in the league. And unfortunately, it's for a guy who definitely has some issues staying on the field. Now, that alone may give some people pause in terms of whether or not to bring him back. Unfortunately, that's probably the biggest thing holding us back from keeping him on the roster this season. I do also think Mike Williams, who's approaching, age 30 in this season, perhaps a big part of this offense and how it's revolved, how it's designed. Maybe it is time to turn the page here a little bit because the Chargers are going to be relying heavily on a different aspect of the offense. Instead of a big play wide receiver, we're probably going to be looking in terms of, like contest and catch and all that kind of stuff. It's going to be more in the run game. And I think for several different reasons, now introducing a change of offensive system, I think Mike Williams is a guy that the Chargers need to part ways with this season, which really sucks because there are wide receivers, at least in my time as a Chargers fan, that really, I don't know, they're different, right? They're very fun. Like the guys that I hold very dear to my heart growing up watching was Vincent Jackson, rest his soul. Malcolm Floyd, those big guys. The Chargers have always kind of had that big guy, you know what I mean? And Mike Williams had some of the freakiest ability among them all, but at the same time, the injury concern, the huge amount of cap, it's just not something that makes sense right now for a team that at this point would be, $30-40 million over the cap. So this is probably the biggest, one of the more obvious moves that the Chargers have to make in order to become cap compliant, and it's a big one in terms of savings. We're going to go ahead and put Mike Williams here as a cut candidate for me in this one, and we're going to submit it here. And instantly, guys, you'll take a look up here, right? From $39 million over the cap, instantly down to under 20. Pretty significant move, and that's why most Chargers fans will tell you it's probably more than likely going to happen. Okay, so Mike Williams, please don't sign with the Chiefs. And thank you. He's one of my favorite players I've watched in a while, even though I had my doubts when he was drafted in 2017. Next up, Khalil Mack, another huge conversation piece for Chargers fans with one more year on his deal, just like Mike Williams. Huge number. At the top of our list here, as a matter of fact, in overthecap.com, almost $40 million for the 2024 season. I think a lot of us would assume, I flat out know. I know that the Chargers aren't going to pay $38 million to Khalil Mack for one season, okay? There is a shot. Now, I'm not going to lie to you guys. I think there is a shot, and I'm hoping that there's a good shot of it, but there is a shot that maybe we extend Khalil Mack, right? Maybe there's a chance that the Chargers and Jim Harbaugh, more likely, loves the Khalil Mack way of football, wants to keep him on this team, and finds a way to add a couple of seasons. We believe in his longevity. We can spread that $38 million to 3 seasons. It would make a lot more sense to pay him in and around, like $20 million a year instead of 38. That is the dream right there. And honestly, it might happen. It could work. But again, more than likely, because of the way the money works out, I think Khalil Mack, for me, is a trade candidate. As a matter of the first trade. So we've had a couple of walks, 1 re-sign, a cut. This is the first trade candidate for me. And it's for a couple of different reasons. For one, Khalil Mack is not the kind of guy in terms of talent, even at the point of his career, age, 32, 33. It's not the point where I think you just cut, bait and walk away. Khalil Mack has done one very important service for the Chargers in this season in particular, and it was play his butt off in 2023. This dude comes out, has a career season with the Chargers later in his career, right? And that adds instant value for another team that's willing to take on his contract. You guys say to yourselves, nobody would ever do that. We did that. We did it. Well, that happened just 2 seasons ago where he had a huge contract that had built up with the Chicago Bears. The Chargers had a young quarterback by the name of Justin Herbert on his rookie deal. We decided to absorb most of that contract in order to add that lethal piece that we needed on defense. It happens. And even now at age 32, 33, Khalil Mack is going to be highly coveted in the league. We just saw it with Von Miller. Sure, Von Miller maybe not working out the best for the Buffalo Bills. It doesn't matter. This is such a hugely coveted position in football that there's going to be a team out there or 2 or 3 or 4 that are going to want Khalil Mack next season, that are in his money situation that doesn't hurt. Again, the biggest rumor that I'm hearing is the Houston Texans, who do have a young C.J. Stroud on their team. They got some money to play with. Why not absorb the Khalil Mack contract and bring him in for a couple more seasons that he has to play with that oomph, man. Khalil. And that's why it's tough. It's why it's tough to make these videos, because after last season, I don't want to see Khalil Mack leave. Absolutely not. But the money might force our hand. And ultimately, why I said at the top of the video, this is a strategy game. The offseason is a game as well. And we have an opportunity to trade a player that's in his mid-30s for as much as a second-round pick. Do we get a second? I don't know. I think it's possible. Even a third or fourth-round pick is a big return for a player at that age in most circumstances, okay? And that's why I think Khalil Mack, for me, is going to be a trade candidate. I think in this season in particular, it's super important for the Chargers to stack picks. Nobody knows the playing field better than Jim Harbaugh right now. A third or fourth, even, especially second-round pick, that's going to be hugely valuable, even more valuable than what we've seen in previous seasons, because Jim Harbaugh has recruited these guys. He knows what he's looking for. Being able to get that right now for a player that may not be on your roster next season or the year after is probably pretty important. So I'm going to go ahead and give Khalil Mack the old trade-a-rooney on the OTC. And just with those few moves, the Chargers are now cap compliant and have an Alohi Gilman on their squad. Okay, and we're not done yet. We're not done yet. Next up, and again, Khalil Mack, dude. I hope they figure something out to keep him on the team, but man, it's going to be a tough one. That money is a very delicate situation. Eric Kendricks coming in on a deal. He still has 1 more season on his contract. This would be, for me, and it was quite plainly simple, a cut candidate for this season. I mean, there is a world where I think that Jim Harbaugh comes in and says, hey, he played pretty good last year. We don't really have a lot at linebacker. Maybe some consistency is what you want at the position, first and foremost. We'll figure it out along the way. I actually think Jesse Minter would probably step up and say, you know what, nah. we gotta establish something quick in linebacker for Minter and the Wolverines in Baltimore, like all these different defenses that we're borrowing from. Linebacker, at least your number 1 has to be pretty common. The Baltimore Ravens have like 2 or 3, right? The Chargers need one guy that's like a stud. The studs. What do they call it? What does Jim Harbaugh call him? The pro's pro, right? And there happens to be a guy out there that the Chargers, if they free up some money, might be able to borrow from a system that they are building their whole defensive identity about, and that's Patrick Queen, who obviously, has been getting better and better every season, but is coming from a system that would beautifully fit what the Chargers are trying to build here in the Baltimore Ravens. If the Chargers make a big move on defense, I think trying to get Patrick Queen or a linebacker that fits that identity is pretty dang important. And for that, I think Eric Kendricks needs to do his part in terms of helping the Chargers out in cap compliance. So we're going to go ahead and say, for me at least, he's a cut candidate for me, which saves another $6.5–7 million. The Chargers now have $10 million to play with. All right. Next up, a player with an expiring contract, another linebacker. We're going to do the linebackers right now. Now, I'm not as sure what to do with Kenneth Murray at this point, because he has, like Patrick Queen, been improving. I think this last season he improved quite a bit, but the bar was set so low after a pretty lackluster rookie season and follow-up season. I don't know what to think at this point, because there are certain things that I think follow what we want. We want the speed. We want the physicality. He's great in the run, or at least he's becoming better in the run. It's just there's things that are holding me back tremendously, like in his coverage ability. Inconsistency is a pretty big one as well. What do we do here? If Kenneth Murray agrees on a cheaper contract, maybe it's worth it. But at the same time, it's tough. He fits what you want, I think, certainly in a backup, a linebacker 2 or 3. But is he going to settle for that, being a former first-round pick? I don't know. I don't know at this point. I think a lot of people have turned their eyes towards his team or his classmate in the 2020 NFL draft in Patrick Queen at this point. But for me, I'm going to say it's probably a walk candidate. The cap is a bit of a delicate situation, and there's going to be guys. There's going to be guys this season. Free agency. It's not a bad year to have money. That's all I'm going to say. And if you're a brand new coach coming into the league, or a brand new, head coach of the Los Angeles Chargers, having some money and being able to handpick your dudes is probably a little bit more important. So for Kenneth Murray, I'm going to say walk on this one. All right. Top 5 dudes here, man. Top 5. Or I should say the last 5 guys here. But some pretty big names to cover. Next up for the Chargers. Gerald Everett, expiring contract 2024. Not currently on the team. He would need an extension to stay on the Chargers. This is where I think the change of coach really comes into play. Because the Chargers, like I mentioned with Mike Williams, are about to undergo a facelift on offense, right? The predominantly passing team, especially underneath kind of stuff, is going to shift gears and turn into more of a run balance offense. And tight ends like Gerald Everett aren't predominantly found in those kinds of systems because of their lack of ability, or I should say lack of emphasis on blocking in that offense. And I think Gerald Everett, as awesome as he has been in terms of, especially an after the catch guy, like holy crap, the dude can plow through 2 or 3 defenders before going down. It's been an awesome spectacle for Chargers fans. I just think the Chargers are going to have a very specific vision for tight end. It's going to be a position that they attack not just once, but maybe 2 or 3 times in free agency / the draft. It's probably one of the biggest positions that Jim Harbaugh is going to try and address outside of running back and maybe offensive line this offseason. It's a big, big, big position for the Jim Harbaugh offense. And does Gerald Everett fit? I do not think he does. I think the Chargers are looking for more of a George Kittle kind of guy that can, he can catch, but he's also great in terms of blocking. That's what makes the San Francisco 49ers so successful on the ground. Christian McCaffrey, as well as so successful through the air. George Kittle providing that service as well. And that's why Brock Bowers, big, big name for the Chargers at number 5 in the draft. So I'm going to say he's a walk for me at least. Next up, I'm going to spend like literally a minute on this guy, maybe less. He's been mentioned a lot. I'm going to address it right now, make my opinion of it known. Derwin James. A lot of people asking, is Derwin James available for trade? Is Derwin James going to get cut? Has he lost a step? Did Brandon Staley ruin him? Is it time to move on? No. No. You're trying to offend. No. There are a few questions that actually offend me these days. That's kind of one of them. Derwin James is going to be fine, dudes. When Jim Harbaugh goes out there and talks about his excitement to coach this team in 2024, he specifically labels Derwin James as a guy that he's super excited about. And we don't need Jim Harbaugh to come out and defend him in order for us to be excited about Derwin and his potential in this system. Derwin is the man, dude. And yes, he's had a down season. I think Brandon Staley had a little bit to do with that. The creativity around his position and where you can move him around wasn't very utilized last season, probably due to injury, etc. But lack of planning, I think, is a big culprit there. Either way, Derwin James is not going anywhere, folks. And he's going to be an awesome piece who plays the Viper position, which is kind of, what Derwin's been playing for us, but it's how they categorize it in Michigan. They have a plan for him. Think Kyle Hamilton and Roquan Smith. We'll have a version of that with Derwin James and insert linebacker. Probably maybe Patrick. Imagine Patrick Queen. Derwin James and Patrick Queen. That's our version of what the Ravens got. I think it's pretty nice. I think it would be pretty nice. All right. Next up. Why are you guys making me talk about this? Why you guys make me talk about Joey Bosa all the time, man? This one breaks my heart wide open, but it might be time. Joey Bosa under contract for the Chargers, obviously for a couple of seasons now. He's been thrown around as lately a cut candidate. I don't know the legitimacy behind those rumors. I think that's definitely not going to happen. I don't think Joey Bosa leaves this team unless it's for a trade, right? Either way, his departure from the team, there are talks, there are whispers, okay? And at this point, I've had to start accepting in my heart that Bosa might not be a Charger in 2024. Kind of crazy. Now, personally, I think that you probably want to keep Joey Bosa at least one more season. Hope that he stays healthy. Maybe proves that he can play out his contract. But more importantly, solves a problem for you this season. Let's say you do trade Khalil Mack, which I think is going to happen, right? Joey Bosa can play opposite Thule and keep that position strong. Now, if you trade Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa, what goes on in that edge position? Well, some inconsistency, some question marks. And Thule's going to be in his second season, mind you. A lot to put on the young guy. So I would say if it were up to me, you probably keep Joey Bosa and see what happens. However, this is not what I want. It's what I think is going to happen, okay? What I think is going to happen, or I think it potentially could happen, right? The Chargers do trade Joey Bosa. And it's, again, you're looking at timing and opportunity here. The Chargers have a Joey Bosa who, isn't super old, but the injuries are a concern. Staying on the field is the biggest reason why we're talking about trading Joey Bosa in the first place. If that is the case, and you want to trade Joey Bosa while he still has some value, of course, some people will say, his injury is going to make him not worth anything. Promise you guys, there are teams out there chomping at the bit for even the opportunity to have Joey Bosa on their team. The injury, again, it's kind of a freak thing sometimes. It's sometimes a guy like Joey Bosa, he'll have a couple of down seasons. For the chance at having a healthy Joey Bosa, let's say 13 out of 17 games, a lot of teams would pay up the nose for that. Okay? And it's not just positional value, but it is his proven track record. It's his maybe there's a chance that he gets to play with Nick Bosa on the Niners. Maybe I've seen Niners fans get really, crazy about that idea. There's a lot of possibilities here. My point is he holds some significant trade value. More than Khalil Mack, who I believe could garner a late second round pick. Early third, that's kind of where I see Khalil Mack after a career season. Joey Bosa, on the other hand, who's definitely younger, has more time on the table, 28 or 29 years old going to 2024. I think he's on, and people will give me flack for this. I think Joey Bosa is worth a late first, early second, for sure. For sure. It's Joey Bosa. Come on, guys. And at the edge position. If that were to be the case, I think the Chargers would be wise to maybe move on. But under a very specific condition here. Don't trade Joey Bosa unless you do get that first round pick and it's something that really helps you out this season. Then, of course, you can go ahead and take the less money here. But I think the Chargers would be wiser to hold Joey Bosa as kind of like a strategy card, in their hand for when they need it. And this is the reason why. There's going to be a lot of teams before the draft and in free agency. They're going to say, hey, we're going to get our edge in free agency. We're going to get our edge in the draft. Well, free agency passes, they say, oops, we missed out. We didn't have the money, or he went and signed somewhere else. We'll get our guy in the draft. The draft comes and goes, oops, we didn't get him in the draft. what's our last option here? If we want a premium pass rusher, we're going to have to trade for one. That's when Joey Bosa's value is at its highest, in my opinion, is after the draft. Which a lot of you guys will say, well, what's the point of trading Joey Bosa if we don't get a pick for this season? Joe Ortiz and Jim Harbaugh are going to be thinking ahead, okay? If you can get a first, and I think your chances of getting a first for Joey Bosa next season are super high. If you can get a first-round pick for Joey Bosa, even in 2025, I would say do it. Because not only does it give you the picks, which I think you can get a lot for Joey Bosa next season, because we don't know what the pick order is going to look like, et cetera, et cetera. You get a lot more for a trade in getting picks the following year rather than the immediate year. Not only that, but the money works out a lot better. If you trade him after the June 1st deadline, which is definitely going to be something there, you would save a lot more money. And it makes way more sense financially. Instead of $22 million in dead cap, the Chargers will be looking at 14. Okay, you're saving way more money this season and next season. And you're probably getting a lot more in terms of draft capital. But for that, I will say Joey Bosa is a trade candidate for me. But after the June 1st deadline, okay? And again, the $32 million, you guys can say, yes, it counts for this season. Some of you guys will say, wait, what? No, you have to be cap compliant, yada, yada, yada. Yeah, before the league year kicks off. But if they trade Joey Bosa afterwards, solve that money issue or whatever the case may be, it definitely helps for this year. So kind of keep that in mind. And they'll know that in the front offices better than I do, all right? Last couple of guys here. Austin Ekeler. Big name. Won't spend too much time on this because I think he himself has come out and said that he's likely moving on to a new season next year. We've also heard Jim Harbaugh say that we would love to see him back if he decides to return. But ultimately, the Chargers, just like I said with tight end and Gerald Everett, as much as we love him, what he's done, especially Austin Ekeler, man, the scoring machine. We have custom, animations and stuff here on the channel for him specifically because of how consistently amazing he has been. Jim Harbaugh needs something different. Jim Harbaugh needs a bell cow. Jim Harbaugh needs a bruiser. Jim Harbaugh needs something to really allow the offense to put more weight on the running back position, which Austin Ekeler, as great as he's been for the Lombardi system and the Moore system, the Greg Roman system is going to be much different. If he's in and on this team, it's likely as a complimentary back. Next season, I promise you guys, if there's one position that we splurge on in free agency or something that, oh my God, we're getting this guy or that guy, or, we're shocked to see the resources thrown at, it's going to be running back. Running back is just massive for Jim Harbaugh. And I get people, sometimes scoffing at the idea of Saquon Barkley or Derrick Henry or, high draft round, running backs in the draft or whatever. The idea of that is not too far of a stretch. Harbaugh, if we make a big move anywhere, Harbaugh and Roman, it's going to be running back. So keep that in mind. So Austin Ekeler, we appreciate your services as a Charger, my friend. We hope you get another couple of seasons in the league. But Jim Harbaugh and the Chargers definitely going to be probably changing gears at running back this season. And then finally, number one on this list is Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen, who's under contract for one more season. It's going to be something very simple for me. I don't think you can cut Keenan Allen. After last, and some of you guys will say the same thing, like, well, Khalil Mack deserves that same respect, yada, yada. I do think that's the case, but I think Keenan Allen, to me, has shown that his longevity, it resembles players like, I say this all the time, Larry Fitzgerald. I see so much Larry Fitzgerald on Keenan Allen in terms of his longevity. He's a huge foundational piece of this team. He's an identity kind of guy, a franchise guy for this team. I think it's somebody that has earned the right to stick around, but we are not paying him $34 million in 2024. Not happening. We just can't allow that to happen. Now, fortunately, there is a way around that. I'm going to say let's extend Keenan Allen, okay? Now, this is where things get a little dicey. I'm not quite sure how they would spread this money around, but I would assume Keenan's going to want around $20 million a season. If you spread this, let's go ahead and take this down to $5 million. And then, let's say, $18 million, $20 million. The reason I think Keenan Allen takes something like this is because at that point, age 33 when he's a free agent, age 33, 34, it's going to be very hard to get a contract for, $18, $20 million. It could be even less than this. I'm thinking it's going to be probably closer to 15. Either way, I think it would be good for Keenan Allen to stay with the team. He gets kind of a guaranteed gig. That money, even though it's not all up front now, he's getting an extra year with even more on another contract. Kind of feels like it makes sense to me. So I'm going to go ahead and put that extension in. And that savings would be pretty significant for this season, too. So if you take a look all of a sudden at the cap, that all of us are so worried about pulling our hair out over $45 million for the Chargers to play with. We would need to solve some issues, okay? Right away, there are big things that the Chargers might have to throw that money at, right? Edge position, you got rid of 2 huge cap hits this year, but you're going to have to solve edge. Now, honestly, I think the draft might not be a bad angle for this. Start really young, maybe not a bad idea, but there's going to be some nice free agents out there that have played in the Baltimore system that might fit the role temporarily, okay? You're going to have guys on the offensive line. You're going to need a center. Again, I think the draft is a very good option this season to accomplish that. You're going to need linebacker. I think, again, go after Patrick Queen now that you have the money to do so. $45 million, that's a lot to work with. It really, really is. For those of you guys saying, well, you know, what about next season after that? Nah, take a look at this, man. 2025. Actually, we don't even have to click on this particular site. $129 million, $180 million. The cap's going to continue to rise and rise and rise. It's looking pretty good. And again, with the new numbers of like 200, what do they have here? 249.5. The cap's going to continue to grow. I think the Chargers finding a way to solve a lot of these problems this season is not a bad idea. And just kind of start building guys on the idea and identity of what Jim Harbaugh, Greg Roman, and Jesse Minter want. Okay? And I think these few names not only keep us cap compliant, but give us a lot of flexibility to start building that version of the Los Angeles Chargers. So you guys let me know in the comment section below what you think of that. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me. This has been The Director. If you like what you saw here, hit us up with a like and sub on your way out. Let me know in the comment section below if there's any other guys that you would want to move around in terms of keep, trade, cut, and maybe some of your opinions of the guys that we covered today. We'll catch you next time, guys. Thank you so much. As always, bolt up, stay frosty, and I'm starting to like the idea of Patrick Queen. I kind of really am.